but typically it's a 3-day holiday and a major harvest festival in both South and North Korea. So I specialize in North Korea, and yes, even in North Korea, they celebrate Chuseok, and it's almost a week-long event. It is on the 15th day of the 8th month of the lunar calendar, and it is considered one of the major national holidays along with the Korean New Year. Well, it's not Korean New Year, it's the Lunar New Year. And what do Koreans do during this holiday? Well, they visit their ancestral hometowns and share Korean traditional food with family. And that is key. So oftentimes when we teach Korean to non-Koreans, we often say Chuseok is similar to Thanksgiving in America. Not quite in terms of the origins, but in terms of families gathering together and sharing food is certainly one of the highlights of Chuseok. So what do we do during Chuseok? Well, there are several, let me see, can we go to the next slide? Yes, so the celebration of the good harvest, people pay respects to the spirits, sorry, that's a typo there, of the ancestors. So oftentimes people will visit the ancestral grave and pay their respects. And after that time, they go to their families' houses or various homes and share food. And one of the foods that is shared is rice cake. And in Korean, it's called songpyeon. It is one of the most traditional food that represents Chuseok. And the filling inside the rice cake varies. So it could be made of different kinds of grains. But the one that I personally enjoy is the brown sugar with sesame seed in it. And it is absolutely lovely. As you bite into the songpyeon and the brown sugar just bursts out, it is absolutely delightful. So this is something that we often eat. And here in Virginia, where I'm at, yesterday was Chuseok, and songpyeon was sold out. Right, that you cannot find any songpyeon anywhere. The next slide. So traditionally, what Koreans used to do before technology invaded our lives was this kind of outdoor activity called ganggangsulle. And it's an ancient Korean dance performed with singing and music. And this dance was to wish an abundant harvest, usually on the evening of Chuseok. So dozens of participants would gather and hold hands and dance around. Almost like, it's reminiscent of like Ring Around the Rosies, right? And this was an all-night event. They would dance under the bright full moon. In terms of ceremonies, again, Koreans would go to the ancestral sites and show their respect. They bow. And this is what I did when I was in Korea. We would trim the weeds or long grass that would grow on the graves, right? So in Korea, a gravesite is not buried under the ground. It's built as a mound, and on the mound, grass and weeds would grow, and we would go there, and the sign of respect is to pull the weeds out. And the next slide, is that, I believe that is it, yes. So one of the things that Koreans do, just like Thanksgiving here in the United States, is get together as a family and eat, and eat, right? So there are several different words to denote family, but one of my favorite words that characterizes family is 식구. And in the Chinese character, 식 means food, gu means mouth. So basically what it means is we gather together, we eat, and we talk. And for Koreans, that means family. And I believe that really characterizes Chuseok, where family members gather together and eat all night and talk all night. And I believe that's a beautiful way of saying that is a family. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you, Dr. Hopkins and Shul, for having us here today. So as you know, my name is Shruti Nagarajan and I work as the curriculum developer at the East Asia National Resource Center. So at East Asia National Resource Center, we really believe that there's a gap in access to resources for on East Asia. So that's why we saw educational value in today's presentation, and we hope that it has more value and provides you more insights on the Mid-Autumn Festival in various East Asian countries. So jumping right into how the Mid-Autumn Festival is celebrated in Taiwan. The Mid-Autumn Festival, it's celebrated as the harvest and the fullest moon of the year. And as Dr. Kim mentioned, the festival falls on the 15th day of the 8th lunar month. Most of the customs and activities of the Mid-Autumn Festival in Taiwan are related to the moon, including worshipping the moon and also their deity Turigong. You can see his picture on the right side. So that's a statue of him in Taiwan. And they also enjoy eating mooncakes. You can see a very lovely picture to the bottom of the page. And they also enjoy eating pomelos, which is a fruit, and I'll talk more about it in the coming slides. Can we move to the next slide? So to talk about some of the popular activities in Taiwan on Mid-Autumn Festival, they really enjoy having outdoor barbecue. There's a fun fact behind how this became a popular activity. So back in the 1980s, there was a television advertisement campaign by a barbecue sauce company. And that's how it led to barbecues becoming a very famous, popular activity among the Taiwanese people. And it's kind of like a family themed activity now in Taiwan. And they also really enjoy eating mooncakes, as I mentioned before. So mooncakes are basically a pastry that's commonly eaten during the Mid-Autumn Festival. It's made out of different flavors in the middle, but specifically in Taiwan, it's the most common flavor is the mung bean, which generally has a salted duck egg yolk in the middle. I've never tasted it, but I've heard that some of the restaurants in DC do serve it. So either once everything gets better, probably I should taste one of them. And the next thing that I mentioned previously is the pomelo fruit. You can see a picture on the right side bottom. So it's a very juicy fruit. That's also part of the tradition, and they eat it. So the next one is they also offer sacrifices to their ancestors. They worship the moon. So a moon is traditionally it's a symbol of unity for the loved ones. And since everyone sees the moon in the sky despite the distance between them, they consider it as a very auspicious activity. And the last one is they also worship their deity Turigong, as I mentioned before. Moving on to the next slide. Some other activities are they also appreciate the osmanthus flowers. So they also drink it as a wine and also tea. And they also enjoy lighting sky lanterns and solving puzzles written on lanterns. And lastly, they are very funny. I found this very funny. They also like to wear pomelo hats on their head. And it signifies a prayer for the youth in the family. And it's also believed that placing the pomelo rings on their head, the moon goddess Chang'e, I apologize if I'm spelling it the wrong way, see them and they respond to their prayers when she looks down from the moon. So yeah, this is a few activities that is celebrated in Taiwan during the Mid-Autumn Festival.
Thanks for that, Shruti. And now I'm going to present on the Mid-Autumn Festival in Japan. My name is Cassidy Charles, as it says, and I am the project assistant for the East Asian National Resource Center. I apologize for not also having a beautiful Zoom background, but my computer apparently is too old for that. So we'll just make do with it. Okay, so I'm going to tell you all about Otsukimi in Japan. So in Japan, Otsukimi is centered around the moon. It's also known as Jugoya, which refers to the specific night in which you view the moon. And it's a festival that dates back to the Heian period. And it's also typically celebrated on the 15th day of the 8th month of the lunar calendar. I think it was celebrated yesterday, if I'm not wrong. So during Otsukimi, people offer skimi dango, which you can see a representation of to the bottom right, which are round rice balls that are shaped like the full moon. You can also offer rabbit-shaped rice balls, and I'll get into that later. So the Otsukimi is surrounded by suzuki, or pampas grass, and seasonal produce. The Sisiki is said to be a representation of the moon spirit on Earth and also wards off bad spirits. So, more on the rabbits. Rabbits are a huge part of Otsukimi as well. There's an old folk tale that says a virtuous rabbit offered itself as food to a Buddhist deity that was dressed as an old man. The deity was so touched by the rabbit's sacrifice that it offered to draw its shape onto the moon, as you can see to the top right. And in Japan, they refer to this as Kino Utsagi, or the moon rabbit, which is the shape of a rabbit pounding rice into mochi on the moon. But you all might know of another famous moon rabbit. Next slide, please. That's right. So the popular Japanese anime Sailor Moon's titular character, Sailor Moon, is named Tsukino Utsagi in the original Japanese version. Sailor Moon draws her power from the moon and is actually a reincarnation of a princess from the Moon Kingdom. So if you want to talk about symbolism or really drawn out puns, Sailor Moon is one of them.
That's so funny. So hi everyone again. My name is Shula Chen, and I am the project assistant for GW Confucius Institute. And I will be talking about how Mid-Autumn Festival is celebrated in mainland China. So, alternative fact to the rabbit story that I will get into later. So the history of the Mid-Autumn Festival in China is ancient Chinese people noticed that the movement of the moon was closely associated with the changes of the season. And so in the autumn, they paid tribute to the full moon in thanks for the harvest season. I do believe we missed the full moon. I think it was last night or the night before, but it should still be quite round for everyone to enjoy tonight. And so the myth of Mid-Autumn Festival, it's kind of similar to Japan's, but not as gruesome. So it pays tribute to Chana, which is our moon goddess. And she became the moon goddess when she took the immortality elixir from her husband, Hou-yi. And the immortality elixir was Hou-yi's award for shooting down 9 out of the 10 suns that existed in the ancient days. So humans could live in a non-global warming, cooler climate, which is a really ironic with today's times. We need another Hou-yi, but it's great. And so there's a lot of controversy and debate on if she stole the elixir from her husband, if she was given the elixir. We will never know, but long story short, she is the moon goddess. And the bunny that we see on the moon craters, instead of a bunny who offered themselves up to be eaten by a Buddhist monk, in China, we believe it's Chana's pet rabbit. And her name is really cute. It's the jade rabbit, Yu Tu. And we, instead of mochi, we believe that Yu Tu is making medicine for Chana every day, working very hard on the moon. But I've always been confused about that growing up as a kid, because aren't goddesses immortal? They don't get sick. But maybe she's making medicine for us. So who knows? And then I'm sure you guys have heard of mooncakes over and over again, but I'm going to dive into it a little bit as well, because they are the representative festival delicacy for Zongqiujie, the Mid-Autumn Festival. They are usually filled with red bean lotus seed paste and egg yolk, and there are 4 main styles of mooncakes with at least 17 sub-variations, and that's only counting China. Like internationally, there could be way more variations of mooncakes. But I recently found out when I was doing research that there were sausage mooncakes from Yunnan, and also snowskin mooncakes. And that just blew my mind, because mooncakes were always such a sweet delicacy to me. But I guess if you're a salty, savory kind of person, then there's a mooncake for everyone. And luxurious mooncakes actually can be sold up to $1,000 per box in China. Like, we take our mooncakes very seriously. So if you ever have a chance to travel to China, make sure to try all the flavors that you can find, and let me know how they taste. So how it's celebrated, of course, China has a lot of ethnic minorities, and every ethnic minority celebrates it a bit differently, but most people, especially in the cities, will share the customs of making the hanging lanterns with their kids, enjoying mooncakes, as I mentioned before. exchanging wishes for good fortune, and gathering together with their family for dinner, and then gazing upon the full moon at night, which I hope we have not missed and we can still catch tonight. And that concludes my China slides. So I'm going to turn the floor back to Dr. Hawkins.
Great, thank you all for a fantastic set of presentations. We do have some time for Q&A. I'm going to make two suggestions as to how to proceed at this point. I think it would be helpful if you have a question that you can put in the Zoom chat. That would be absolutely fantastic. I've got my eyes on that, and I've been enjoying actually reading some of the comments that are coming out. Alternatively, if on the participants pane you'd like to raise your hand, I'll keep my eye there to call on anybody that does have any questions. I'll abuse my position as moderator to also give everybody a minute perhaps to come up with their questions. And my question is for all of the presenters, and it's largely born out of a bit of ignorance and a bit of scholarly inquisitiveness. And I'm wondering, most of us participating, or not most, but many of us are not actually in East Asia at the moment. And so I'm wondering about the effect of diasporas on the celebration of the Mid-Autumn Festival. And if there's been practices that have been developed, you know, with diasporas that have themselves worked their ways back to mainland China or Taiwan or Japan or Korea, that might be of interest. So I'll leave that for any one of the contributors to take a swing at.
I think I could start. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and today there's a large Korean community there, but when I was growing up, there wasn't. So I remember neighbors getting together and just cooking all night, all day. So yeah, it was a very community-based event. Whereas I believe today you can just go to a restaurant or go to a store and purchase all these foods and just reheat them and just eat them and just invite your family. So I think through the years, as the Korean community grew, it actually sort of minimized the community-ness of it. But I remember as a kid just munching on food while my mom, my aunts, my next door neighbors were cooking food. So yeah, it's a little bit different. So if that helps.
Any other takers on that one?
I can shoot my shot. I think definitely in Japan, since Otsukimi is mostly about viewing the moon and having those offerings, that it's very easy to transport even if you're not in Japan itself. And I've seen mochi at Japanese grocery stores, even in the United States. Like there's one in Maryland that sells mochi, especially around times of these festivals. So you can at least set something up in your house that looks similar to the homemade Otsukimi dango, for instance, or you can make your own and celebrate that way.
Of course, I was a bit sad this year since I wasn't able to be with family for, I almost said Otsukimi, but Zongqiujie. But, you know, thanks to Zoom, thanks to technology today, it's all about being with family. And holidays, I feel like for Chinese people at least, it's mostly a big, like the best excuse to eat your weight in the best food ever and also be with your family for a long weekend, and then go back to your independent lives and recharge after being with family. So how I celebrated Zongqiujie in the past was my parents would make me all these lucky foods. So in China, for instance, lucky foods include like apples, which mean peace. And so on Mid-Autumn Festival, not only would we have mooncakes, and my dad would like whip out the best tea he had in storage for us. My mom would also make us, sometimes she would make us like long noodles that symbolize longevity. Sometimes she would like get a platter of really lucky fruits, and we would just enjoy that together. But this year, obviously, because I could not, it was really just a Zoom meeting with my little sister and my parents, and just drinking tea and enjoying mooncakes and chatting together. And I think as long as you're in that spirit of family and good food, that holiday spirit will be anywhere, wherever you are, and it'll follow you, and it'll be a great time. Yeah.
I have personally
Yes.
not been a part of Mid-Autumn Festival in the past, but it was really exciting to learn more about how the Mid-Autumn Festival is celebrated, and I'm really excited to at least try a mooncake once, and maybe also learn how to make a mooncake after today's presentation, just like all of you.
Fantastic. Well, we've got an active session on the chat going on. There's a lot of intelligence being exchanged about the best place to get your mooncakes. A couple of votes for Whole Foods. Shockingly for me, Costco is apparently a good place to get it, as is Great Wall Supermarket and Good Fortune Supermarket in Virginia. But there's a question here from the child of one of our participants, from a 5-year-old, so I think we've got to get that one in for sure. And this is to the group as a whole. Is there usually dancing for the festival, and what do the costumes look like? Shula, maybe you'll be able to even show us a little bit of the one that you're wearing as best as your camera is able to facilitate.
I would love nothing more. So also a sidetrack, I've been showing this to all the speakers before, but my outfit actually has a white bunny on it, and I did not plan that. And it's perfect because it's Mid-Autumn Festival. But yes, we do have a lot of dances for all Chinese festivals, especially the Mid-Autumn Festival, since it's like our biggest event during the autumn. So usually we will have, in Hong Kong, there will be a huge dragon dance. Sometimes there will be a lot of lion dances. I'm sure you might have seen some during Lunar New Year Festival. These are some of the more iconic dances in Chinese festivals. But recently we've also had a revival of interest in Chinese Hanfu, which is what I'm wearing today. Hanfu is traditional Chinese garments. And so recently you will see a revival of people interested in traditional Chinese instruments and dressing up in Hanfu with their traditional instruments and their traditional Chinese dance is one of the most beautiful things. I enjoy watching it, and we will also see some later today, so stay tuned. We won't be having dances, but there will be a lot of music for you to enjoy. Yeah.
Fantastic. Another question from our participants, and this, I think, and we can start with Shula because you're being called out on this specific one, but we can go to the entire panel as well. What is your favorite flavor of mooncake?
Oh, my favorite is the lotus seed paste. I think it's because it was growing up, I had it most often, and I also just loved it. And I also love, I love studying Buddhism, and the lotus has a very special meaning. And so baby Shirley in my head was like, oh, the lotus seed paste mooncake is the most superior of them all. And even though I know better now, and there are many other flavors out there, this one's still my favorite. And it's really funny because I love sharing it with my best friends, my lotus seed mooncakes, so they're very precious to me. One time I shared them with one of my American friends who had never had mooncakes before, and he said it tasted like peanut butter. And I thought that was the most saddening thing. But then he took a second bite and was like, this is amazing. So we're still friends. But yes, I definitely recommend the lotus seed mooncake. There are also a lot of really good mooncakes that you can buy, I think in the Rockville area, because there's a nice little Chinese community there, but it is a bit far and it's a bit hard, but it's worth it. So thank you for your question.
Any other panelists want to share their favorite and why? Or we could go beyond mooncake and just say, do you have a favorite food for the festival? Emmanuel, you must have something that you absolutely love.
Oh, yeah. So Koreans have tons of rice cakes, but unfortunately, I don't really like them. We do have something that's similar to a mooncake. But yeah, for me, it's just got to be the main dish, which is like beef stew. It's similar to beef stew, and it is delightful. We do a lot of like, what is it? Deep frying. So it tends to be quite heavy. But, you know, on a cold night, eating some heavy food is not bad, right? It's actually very filling and wonderful. So beef stew, I got to go with beef stew.
There's an interesting comment here that I think might be worth taking up, and that's from a colleague of ours down at Spelman College, Yanshu, who says, China has a literary tradition of composing poems on the festival. I'd be curious if that's true in Japan and Korea, and if there's any particular subject matter that figures prominently in those poems.
Well, definitely from the Japan perspective, haikus are a big part of the Moon Festival as well. Usually today, a lot of people don't really sit down and write haikus, but if you're more of the traditional mindset or want to go back to the Heian period type of celebrations, then people are really enraptured by the beauty of the moon, the beauty of nature, talking about their hope for a prosperous harvest in the future. So a lot of the haikus take on that nature, and they'll talk about, oh, the moon is so bright and beautiful, or the fall wind chills me to the bone, but I'm warm because of X, Y, Z, like tea or something like that. So it's also a part of the Japanese celebration as well.
Yeah, in terms of Korea, I'm not too sure if members get together and write
right now, and one of the performers to sing a poem from the Tang Dynasty. So I also feel, you know, for the Mid-Autumn Festival, it is considered the most romantic festival for the Chinese, because it's beautiful, the beautiful season, and also it also reflects the Chinese mindset of the unity of heaven and humanities, because you know the moon, it's changed. There's full moon and the crescent. So you know, for the Chinese, it is similar to the pattern of human life. We have unity, and then we have separation. So most of the poems written by the Chinese poets on the Mid-Autumn Festival has a little bit, yes, sadness, or not sadness, just nostalgia, and you know, reflect some personal thoughts about the personal experience. So which make this festival, I would say, more dynamic, also more personal. It has this description of the these pictures to take home with you. So Chinese people, I guess, maybe, you know, just the universal feeling of the uncertainty of life. Yeah. So, but anyway, this is one of my most favorite festivals because of food and also beautiful the literature. There are many poems written by that. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that insight and that reflection, Jan. I'm cognizant of time and that we need to move on. So I know there's an active discussion going on with the Zoom group chat. I encourage you to continue that. You guys are a fantastic resource for one another. I myself am learning an incredible amount just looking at it as we go through here. But cognizant of time, I'd now like to turn the program over to my colleague, Professor Stephen Bala, who's the faculty head of the Confucius Institute.
Great, thanks, Ben.
I was going to, I'm so sorry, I should have unmuted myself here, but I'm going to really quickly introduce Professor Bala, our other speaker of honor today. Thank you so much for joining us, by the way, today, Professor Bala. Professor Bala is the Associate Professor of Political Science, Public Policy, and Public Administration and International Affairs. And he is a senior scholar at the George Washington Regulatory Studies Center. He researches government consultation and public participation in policymaking in the United States and China. He has served as a consultant to the Administrative Conference of the United States, drawing on his research on public commenting in the US rulemaking process to make recommendations for how to improve stakeholder engagement in regulatory policymaking. He has served as a Fulbright Scholar in China on 2 occasions at Peking University in Beijing and Nankai University in Tianjin. He is currently working on a project on mass comment campaigns in American rulemaking and a project on government consultation and public participation in Chinese policymaking. Thanks again, Professor Bala, and you have the floor.
Great, thanks, Ben. Thanks, Shula, for that nice introduction. And thanks, everybody, for being here today. This has certainly been enlightening to me because as someone who's lived in China on a number of occasions during the Mid-Autumn Festival, it's a holiday I've enjoyed celebrating on the ground, but I've only known the Chinese context. So it's been really enlightening to hear about some of what happens elsewhere in East Asia. So thank you. I'd also just like to thank once again all of the sponsors here at GW of this event, the Confucius Institute, Seeger Center, Institute for Korean Studies, East Asia National Resource Center, the East Asian Languages and Literatures Department, and the Language Center, as well as the DC Fuyao Hanfu Association. Thank you, everybody, for making this event possible. If I could answer the question about my favorite mooncakes, in 2008, I was serving as a Fulbright Scholar at Peking University, and the university kindly gave me a gift, a box of mooncakes. And Shula mentioned that in China, they can be quite expensive. I don't know how expensive they were, but they were from the Shangri-La Hotel. So I assumed that they were not your supermarket garden variety mooncakes. And so my wife and I and our 2 children who were in middle school at the time, well, we all wanted to try all of the different flavors because the box was a variety of traditional and non-traditional flavors. So you can see that mooncakes, each individual mooncake is not that big, but we insisted, I think it was my kids probably who insisted, we cut each mooncake into 4 quarters so each one of us could try each flavor. And again, there were some of the traditional bean paste flavors, but others that were much more exotic and experimental. My favorite mooncake, though, even though those were outstanding, my wife and I had the opportunity to, that same year, we were in a park in Beijing, and we're in a tea house and had the opportunity to get some mooncakes that it's not exotic, but strawberry filled mooncakes. And they were just fantastic. We still remember them to this day, sitting in a tea house, with a pond and lotus. It was a very sort of, typical experience, if you will. We remember it fondly. So back here in the United States, of course, it's fantastic that the Confucius Institute can provide us with this kind of platform, not only for learning and experiencing the Mid-Autumn Festival, learning about it and seeing some performances and the mooncake preparation that I'm looking forward to, but the language and cultural events throughout the year, I think it's fantastic, from Lunar New Year as well as movie screenings and so forth. It's a great resource that I encourage. I know I have the right audience here. You're already taking advantage of the events that the Confucius Institute offers, but just a plug for the events that happen throughout the year on language and culture. Of course, in the past, this event has been hosted by the Confucius Institute at its townhouse, which is fantastic. It's a great space, complete with mooncakes and performances. And so it's my hope that this year will be the only, even though it's great, I hope this will be the only virtual celebration we have for the Mid-Autumn Festival, and that we can assemble in person this time next year. So thanks again, everybody, for being here on behalf of the Confucius Institute. and all of the sponsors. And I'd like to turn the floor over to Lucy Chin and the DC Fuyao Hanfu Association for their virtual performances and the Mooncake tutorial. I'm looking forward to this very much. Lucy, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, I'm Lucy Chin from American University, and I'm a first-year MA student majoring in anthropology with a concentration of archaeology. And here I am to represent the DC Fuyao Hanfu Association. Hanfu is the traditional outfit of Han people, the ethnicity that consists of 90% of the population in China. Unfortunately, in the past centuries, the Hanfu culture was lost by the general public due to historical factors. And Hanfu enthusiasts nowadays are trying to bring our traditions back and normalize it in everyday lives. Named after whirlwind that ascends a giant bird in Taoist mythology to sky, Fuyao seeks to build a sharing platform about China through material culture. We were founded in DC in 2015 by a group of Hanfu enthusiasts. And so far, we performed at multiple festive galas and cultural events at different universities and organizations, and even at the Chinese embassy in DC. Please enjoy the performances brought up by Fuyao members. The first one is Always Faithful, inspired by Shui Diao Ge Tou of the famous Song poet Su Shi. It expresses the author's homesickness on Mid-Autumn Festival, a day that families should unite and celebrate together. Please enjoy Pipa performance by Liao Yingjia from American University.
Okay, so were you guys able to hear the audio, or was there a problem? Okay, so we will start again. I apologize for that. All right, so let me open this up. I heard that there's still no audio for some of you. So we are going to start this third time's a charm. Please bear with me, everyone.
The next performance is the guqin version of the Game of Thrones theme song. Guqin is one of the oldest Chinese instruments and is the Chinese name of a zither. Bojie Li is the heir of Yu Xianli, his grandfather, a very famous guqin player from China. In this performance, Bojie's mom accompanies him with a Western harp. So please enjoy this amazing fusion of the East and the West.
I am just now learning that that was his mother, and I'm even more excited for this.
She's so beautiful.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay. Just a really quick check. Is the audio on for everyone, or is there problems again? No sound? Okay. All right, this is fun. We will try again. Fourth time's the charm now. The more the merrier. So please bear with me for a few minutes while I fix this. Was there sound that time? Yeah. Sweet. Thank you guys so much. Wow. Winter is coming, guys.
That's phenomenal. And the mooncake is a must for Chinese households on Mid-Autumn Festival. It is a traditional baked dessert that has a sweet paste inside. Fuyao member Chen Mengyao made a tutorial on the making of mooncakes, and she can't wait to show it to us.
Also, just for reference, if you missed any part of this video, that's all right, because it will be uploaded to our website later for your reference at any time. Enjoy!
I use 1500 gram red bean in here. If you want to do it, you can just do 500 gram. Soak the bean to water, easier to cook it soft with less time and gas or electricity. Pressure water to cover the bean, 20-minute cooking time with pressure pot and overnight soak. If you didn't do this step, the way you know it's well done is you can crush it with your finger. Like this. I weigh 300 grams sugar at this moment, but I actually use about 500 grams for all beans. You can taste them and keep seasoning until you get the flavor you want. More water will be easier to mush bean paste, but harder to dry when you stir fry it. It's better to use mid-low fire to stir fry it. Add sugar when it's soft dry. Then the paste will moisture again. It will be hard to get dry. So I would like to use flour to make it hard dry. Sorry for lost the oil and sugar added part. See, this is hard dry.
时光如烟飞散，消失纯真无限。那串玲珑相思间。
For syrup, it should be used inverted sugar syrup or called trimoline. I don't have enough trimoline, so I mix it with maltose. For the sodium carbonate, it's not baking soda. These two are different. Sodium carbonate is widely used in Chinese flour pastries. not should spray the cooking oil on the duck egg yolk because it has some fishy smell. Bake egg yolk to make sure it's well done to eat, but do not bake over, that will lose its flavor. 3 to 5 minutes will be fine. You can use flour to anti-sticking. Because the bean has, a little bit stick. To give the mooncake a beautiful baked color.
So that's how you make a mooncake. And if you want to revisit the video, it will be on the website.
Okay, so thank you guys so much today for coming. Thank you for all your amazing questions, and thank you also very much for bearing with me through technical difficulties as we all try to figure out Zoom era. I really hope that you enjoyed today's program. It would not have been made possible without our amazing sponsors. So make sure to go follow them on social media, subscribe to their newsletters for more amazing events, as well as follow GW Confucius Institute for our event as well. And we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.